Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a scalpel to the digital foundation of modern technology. We're focusing on the crucial components that really form the backbone of, well, virtually every IT system out there.
The fundamentals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The characteristics of storage media and the critical implications of how we choose to process data. And our mission today, it isn't just to define these parts, it's really to distill the essential trade-offs that determine why certain decisions are made.
Right.
We want to understand the hidden costs and benefits. You know, why do system builders pick an expensive super fast drive, for one thing?
And then a cheap massive one for something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or what are the real performance costs of, say, prioritizing manual oversight instead of just going for lightning fast automation?
And this is where it gets interesting, because IT systems become less about pure technology and more about managing constrained resources.
Okay.
I mean, sure, we can categorize storage and processing by objective metrics, gigabytes, clock speed, whatever. But the final choice, it's never arbitrary. It always, and I mean always, depends entirely on specific user needs. And, of course, the budget, you have to meet them. Understanding that relationship is key. Every benefit has a cost or a compromise.
That sets the perfect context. We're looking for those points of tension where the compromises have to be made. Okay, let's unpack this. So we're going to start where all data begins its life, in a system, storage media. Our analysis shows that these devices, and we're talking about everything from old spinning hard drives to SSDs, even cloud infrastructure, they all differ across four major areas.
Four key characteristics.
These are basically the dials that every designer has to turn when they're trying to optimize a system.
Precisely. When you're selecting media, it doesn't matter if it's for a giant corporate data center or your own gaming PC. You're always balancing the same four things: capacity, cost, speed, and compatibility.
And they're often in conflict.
They're often in direct opposition. That's the fundamental engineering challenge. You just can't maximize all four at the same time. So, understanding which levers to push and pull, that's what defines the success of the system.
Let's look at capacity and cost together then, because they seem intrinsically linked by that one crucial metric, cost per gigabyte.
Yep.
Capacity, simply put, is just how much data a device can hold. But for an informed audience like ours, we need to go a bit past that basic definition.
Absolutely. Moving past just the byte count, what's fascinating is how the value of that capacity changes based on how fast you need to access it.
Right.
I mean, think about the different tiers of data storage today. You have these massive archival tape libraries where data might cost, I don't know, pennies per gigabyte.
Super cheap.
Super cheap capacity, but retrieving it could take minutes, which is slow.
And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got the high end, where you might be paying many, many times more per gigabyte for the instant access of an NVMe flash drive.
And that's the first major trade-off point. It's why budget is so critical. The implication here is that higher speed and higher capacity, when you combine them, they translate directly to an almost exponential increase in cost.
Wow.
If you need instant access to petabytes of data, you are paying a colossal premium. But if you can accept, say, a 10-second delay for retrieval, you might save millions by choosing slower, higher density storage. Budget doesn't just influence the size of the system, it dictates the entire performance ceiling.
So if capacity and cost cover the sheer quantity of data and its price, speed is. Well, that's where the rubber meets the road for performance. How do we even quantify storage speed beyond just saying it's fast?
Well, speed is defined as how quickly data can be read or written, but that needs a little more nuance.
Okay.
We're really talking about two primary types of speed: sequential and random access. Sequential is easy. It's like loading a movie file, one big continuous block of data.
Right.
Random access, though, that is the far more painful metric. That's when your operating system or a database is constantly jumping all around the disk, reading millions of tiny disorganized files.
And that random access speed is exactly why the jump from HDDs to SSDs was so revolutionary, correct?
Right.
I mean, our sources all highlight that SSDs are dramatically faster than the older hard disk drives.
It's because the physical mechanisms are completely different. And HDD relies on, spinning platters and moving heads. That introduces a mechanical delay. We call it latency. Every single time the head has to physically move to a new spot.
And SSDs.
SSDs have no moving parts, so they eliminate that latency entirely.
And that elimination of the mechanical lag, that translates directly into the performance indicator that really matters in high-demand situations, IOPS.
Correct. IOPS, or input-output operations per second. That is the real measure of storage responsiveness, especially for things like databases or large virtual environments.
What's the difference in real terms?
Well, an HDD might manage a few hundred IOPS. A modern SSD can hit hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, of IOPS. That speed difference is felt directly by the user. Applications load instantly, data processes rapidly. If a bank's transaction system needs millisecond response times, they have to prioritize high IOPS, and they just have to accept the massive cost for that flash storage.
It's fascinating how a business need immediately translates into a hard technical requirement like IOPS. But okay, we've covered capacity, cost, and speed. Now for the gatekeeper characteristic, compatibility. Why is this the final piece that decides if any of those other choices even matter?
Compatibility is the practical necessity that stops you from making a catastrophic mistake. It just defines whether the media will physically and logically work with your system.
So if it doesn't fit.
If you spec out the world's fastest SSD, but it doesn't fit the slot or speak the right language, then it's just a very, very expensive paperweight.
And in modern systems, that often comes down to the connection formats. The sources mention specific acronyms like SATA versus NVE. For our listener, can we quickly differentiate what those terms mean in the real world?
Absolutely. So SATA, that's the older standardized connection protocol that HDDs and early SSDs used. It runs on a relatively slow bus, so it kind of maxes out the beta transfer rate pretty quickly.
And NVMe.
NVMe, or non-volatile memory express, is the game changer. It uses the super fast direct connection of the PCIe bus. It's the same technology that high-end graphics cards use.
So NVMe isn't just a faster plug, it's using a completely different, much wider highway to move all that data.
Exactly. And if your system is old or it wasn't designed with the right PCIe lanes, that cutting-edge NVMe drive either won't work, or worse, it'll run way slower than intended. The real benefit of checking compatibility, the connectors, the physical size, the protocol, is preventing system failure and making sure you actually get the performance you paid for.
That wraps up the 4 pillars of storage pretty well. We've talked about data just sitting there. But an IT system isn't a warehouse. It's a processing plant. So let's shift gears now from storage media to the activity that actually defines the system, data processing.
Right. Once the data is stored, the next step is always to manipulate or analyze it. And this process really comes down to two strategic choices. You can process data manually or automatically.
And I'm guessing there's a trade-off.
And, just like with storage, the choice is entirely determined by the trade-off you need to make between speed and accuracy.
Let's start with manual processing. The immediate assumption is that manual is just bad. It's slow, it's error-prone. But that must be an oversimplification, right? I mean, why would any modern company choose to involve humans?
That's a critical question. Manual processing, so data handling done entirely by humans, is chosen when the task requires subjective human judgment or interpretation or handling some weird exception that no algorithm can replicate just yet. But the implication for bulk data is, well, it's grim. Manual processing is inherently slower, and it introduces a huge amount of variability. The error rate is the real risk. If someone is hand transcribing thousands of scanned patient records,
Oh, yeah.
transcription errors are inevitable. Even if the task needs judgment, that process is slow, it's expensive, and the quality is going to be inconsistent.
And our sources use that classic example of handwriting data entry as a baseline for manual processing, which, I mean, that immediately highlights the problem of transcription errors.
It's the perfect illustration of why we try to automate everything we can. You contrast that with automatic processing. This uses computers and sophisticated software to handle all the data transformation, the analysis, the flow. The benefits are, predictability, scalability, and crucially, massive speed.
And when we talk about automatic processing today, it's not just a simple spreadsheet calculation. We're talking about massive, high-throughput data pipelines.
Exactly. Think of modern ERP systems or ETL processes. A company might be ingesting billions of customer transactions every single day. That process requires immediate, repeatable, and flawless transformation before the data ever hits their analytical database.
And if they tried to use manual processing for even a fraction of that load, the system would just collapse under the volume. Not to mention the error rate would make all the analytics useless.
The choice is clear in that case.
Hmm?
The scale and the need for near-perfect consistency demand automatic processing. And the beauty of automation is that once the system is designed and it's validated, the processing accuracy is near 100%, and the speed is limited only by your hardware, which, of course, cycles right back to our discussion about SSDs and IOPS.
Did you invest up front?
You invest heavily upfront in the software and the system precisely to eliminate all those variable costs, time delays, and human errors that come with manual oversight.
So ultimately, the principle is consistent across both storage and processing. Every design decision is a trade-off. The choice between manual and automatic really just hinges on whether the priority is high speed and accuracy, which points to automation,
Or
or if the task requires human interpretation, which means you have to go the manual route, even if it means you accept the higher error rates and slower speed.
that ability to tolerate error or the ability to pay for speed, that's really the central challenge in all of IT system design.
This has been a really comprehensive deep dive. We've covered the 4 critical trade-offs for storage media capacity, cost, speed, and compatibility, and how balancing them dictates the price and performance of your system. Then we shifted to that accuracy and speed trade-off that determines how data is processed, comparing manual systems against the predictable low-error world of automatic pipelines.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the complexity of designing any efficient IT system is really all about balancing these opposing forces. Every decision is a calculated compromise. You're constantly weighing, for instance, paying that huge premium for an NVMe's speed, or, on the other hand, deciding if a task is sensitive enough to need human review and therefore accepting the slowness and error rate of manual processing.
Yeah.
Understanding these trade-offs is what lets you make informed compromises that meet both your technical and your financial goals.
Absolutely. It's about leveraging the right tool for the right job under real-world constraints. And that leads us to a final thought for you to mull over. Considering that we know higher speed and capacity mean higher cost, and knowing the technical differences between SATA and NVMe, how would you determine the absolute minimum compatibility standard you'd need to maximize savings without risking immediate hardware failure? Think about it. Where's that specific point where choosing the cheaper, slower connector like SATA would save the most money while still letting your system handle, say, 90% of its workload just fine? When is good enough connection technology the smartest financial decision? Something to consider. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.